I'll be there in 10 minutes, I said into my phone as I locked the office door. Don't be late, my mother replied softly. Your father wants everyone together tonight. I know. She hesitated before hanging up. That tiny pause made me uneasy, but I ignored it. Family dinners were never exciting. They usually ended with my father talking about business while Ryan joked about everything except work. When I reached our house, Ryan's expensive sports car was already outside. Look who finally arrived, Ryan said with a grin as I walked in. Still wearing work clothes? I came straight from the construction site. You know, showers exist. I smiled without answering. My father walked into the dining room wearing his usual serious expression. Sit down, he said. We have something important to discuss. I took my seat beside my mother. She looked nervous. My Uncle Michael quietly stared at his plate. My father raised his glass. Tonight is a special night. Ryan leaned back confidently. I've spent 30 years building Carter Construction, my father continued. It's time to think about the future. My heart started beating faster. For years, he had told me the same thing. One day, this company will be yours because you've earned it. Those words had shaped my entire life. I never finished college because he asked me to help full-time. I missed birthdays. I skipped vacations. I lost friends. While everyone my age enjoyed their 20s, I spent mine solving problems, managing workers, and saving projects that should have failed. I believed every sacrifice had a purpose. My father smiled. After months of thinking, I've made my decision. Ryan looked completely relaxed. I looked hopeful. The next president of Carter Construction will be. He paused. Ryan. The room exploded with applause. I didn't move. For a moment, I thought I had heard him wrong. Ryan laughed. Thanks, Dad. I promise I won't let you down. I stared at my father. What? He frowned. You heard me. I thought. You thought the company was yours? His voice was calm. It isn't. I looked around the table. My mother avoided my eyes. My uncle kept staring down. No one looked surprised. You all knew? I asked quietly. Nobody answered. Ryan shrugged. Come on, Ethan. Don't make tonight awkward. I turned toward him. Awkward? He laughed. It's just business. Business. I felt my hands shaking. I gave this company 12 years of my life. And you were paid. I wasn't asking about money. Ryan rolled his eyes. You always act like you're the only one who matters. The only one. I looked at my father. I worked every weekend. So? I canceled my education. That was your choice. No, I said. You asked me to stay. I asked. You agreed. His words hit harder than I expected. So none of it mattered. It mattered, he replied. You helped the company grow. And now? Now Ryan will lead it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why? My father folded his hands. Because Ryan has better people skills. I actually laughed. People skills? Ryan smiled proudly. I've always been good with clients. You've barely visited the office. I didn't need to. I looked back at my father. He doesn't even know how the projects work. He'll learn. I already know. That's exactly the problem. I frowned. What does that mean? You've always been a worker. The words felt like a knife. A worker? Ryan thinks like a leader. I couldn't breathe. So all these years. I appreciate everything you've done. No. I shook my head. You promised me. I changed my mind. Just like that. Yes. Silence filled the room. Finally, my mother whispered, Richard. He raised his hand. Not now. She lowered her head immediately. I looked at my uncle. Did you know? He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. That hurt even more than my father's decision. Everyone had known. Everyone had watched me work myself to exhaustion. No one had warned me. Ryan stood and lifted his glass. To the future. Nobody noticed that I stood up. Nobody stopped me. I picked up my car keys. Ethan, my mother called. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. So am I. I walked out before anyone could say another word. The cold night air hit my face, but it couldn't numb the pain inside me. I sat in my car without starting the engine. 12 years. 12 years of loyalty. 12 years of believing my father. I realized I hadn't lost the company tonight. I had lost the family I thought I had. I wiped my eyes and looked through the windshield. I won't beg, I whispered to myself. I won't fight for a place where I was never truly wanted. I gripped the steering wheel until my hands stopped shaking. If they believe I needed their company to have a future, they're wrong. I started the engine. I'll build something of my own. And one day, they'll realize what they threw away. The next morning, I woke up with one question burning inside my head. What do I do now? No one answered. The silence inside my apartment felt heavier than the silence at my family's dinner table. I checked my bank account. It wasn't empty, but it wasn't enough to live comfortably for long. For the first time in years, I had nowhere to go. No office. No meetings. No workers calling me. Just an empty calendar. A week later, I was sitting in a small coffee shop, staring at my laptop without reading anything. Is that really you? I looked up. Daniel? He laughed. I knew it. Ethan Carter. I stood and hugged him. It's been years. It has. Sit down. Daniel ordered another coffee before looking at me carefully. You don't look okay. I forced a smile. I've had better weeks. What happened? I stayed quiet for a moment. My father gave the company to Ryan. Daniel blinked. What? He made Ryan president. You built that company. I know. And he just. I nodded. Daniel shook his head. That's insane. I walked away. He leaned forward. So what's next? I honestly don't know. He smiled. I do. What? We start our own company. I laughed. With what money? With your experience and my crazy ideas. I'm serious. So am I. I don't even have an office. We'll rent one. I don't have enough equipment. We'll buy used tools. I don't even know if anyone will hire us. Daniel pointed at me. I would. I couldn't help smiling. You really believe in me? I always have. Those words meant more than he probably realized. 2 weeks later, we rented an old warehouse on the edge of the city. The roof leaked. The walls needed paint. Half the lights didn't work. Daniel looked around. It's beautiful. I laughed. No, it isn't. It will be. We cleaned every corner ourselves. We painted walls. We repaired broken shelves. We built our own desks from leftover wood. Every evening we were exhausted. Every morning we came back smiling. One afternoon, my phone rang. Hello? Is this Ethan Carter? Yes. My name is Olivia Hayes. Hi. I heard you're starting a renovation company. That's right. I'd like to meet. I frowned. Why? I've seen some of the projects you managed before. They belong to my father's company. They succeeded because of you. Her answer surprised me. The next day she visited our warehouse. She looked around without saying anything. Finally she smiled. I like it. Daniel whispered, she's lying. I tried not to laugh. Olivia heard him. No. She smiled. I like people who build before they boast. She opened her portfolio. I design buildings. The drawings were incredible. You made these. Every one. Why aren't you working for one of the big companies? They offered. So why come here? She looked directly at me. Because big companies pay well. I nodded. But they don't always build dreams. Daniel grinned. I like her already. Olivia continued. I want to help create something from the beginning. I can't pay what others can. I know. The first few months may be difficult. I know. You might regret it. She smiled. I doubt it. For the first time since leaving my family, hope returned. The three of us spent long days chasing clients. Most meetings ended the same way. We'll call you. They never did. One evening Daniel threw a notebook onto the table. I'm tired. So am I. Maybe people were right. What do you mean? Maybe starting over is impossible. Before I could answer, Olivia placed 3 folders in front of us. What's this? 3 appointments. I stared at her. How? I kept asking until someone listened. Daniel laughed. I knew hiring you was the smartest thing we've done. She smiled. Good. Our first client wanted a small kitchen renovation. The payment barely covered expenses. Daniel celebrated anyway. We're officially in business. It isn't much. It doesn't have to be. We finished the project ahead of schedule. The customer smiled. I'll recommend you. Those 4 words changed everything. Soon another client called. Then another. Then another. The warehouse slowly filled with equipment. We hired 2 workers. A month later we hired 3 more. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about my father every day. I was thinking about tomorrow. One afternoon, Daniel rushed into my office. You need to see this. What happened? He handed me a business newspaper. Across the front page was a headline about Carter Construction. I looked at it quietly. What is it? Daniel asked. They lost another major contract. I said nothing. Ryan's in charge now. I know. You don't look happy. I thought I would be. But I just feel empty. Olivia stepped into the room. That's because your future isn't behind you anymore. I looked at her. It's here. I folded the newspaper and placed it in a drawer. I don't need to watch them fall. Daniel smiled. What do we watch instead? I looked around our small warehouse. Our own company rise. They both nodded. For the first time since my father broke his promise, I finally believed those words were possible. 3 months later, my phone barely stopped ringing. Daniel walked into my office with a wide smile. Another client. I looked up from my desk. Really? They accepted our proposal. I stood and shook his hand. We're getting there. We're doing more than getting there. Before I could answer, Olivia stepped inside carrying blueprints. I updated the design for the apartment project. I looked through the pages. This is incredible. She smiled. I knew you'd say that. Daniel laughed. Can you two stop complimenting each other and celebrate the contract? I laughed for the first time in days. Fine. Coffee's on me. While we were drinking coffee, my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed my uncle, Michael. I stared at the screen. Daniel noticed. Everything okay? It's my uncle. Are you going to answer? After a long pause, I nodded. Hello? Ethan, can we meet? His voice sounded tired. Why? Please. Where? Your office. An hour later, he arrived looking older than I remembered. He sat quietly. You've been busy. So have you. He lowered his head. The company isn't doing well. I stayed silent. He continued. Suppliers are refusing deliveries. What happened? Ryan ignored every warning. I see. Several senior managers resigned. I folded my arms. And? Ethan, we made a mistake. I looked directly into his eyes. We. Everyone. What does that mean? We all knew you deserved to lead. The room became silent. You knew? He nodded. I argued with your father. And? He wouldn't listen. So everyone watched while I gave up my life. I'm sorry. I laughed bitterly. Sorry doesn't give me those years back. I know. No, you don't. He rubbed his face. I should have spoken louder. You should have. I'm ashamed. His apology sounded sincere. That somehow hurt even more. After he left, I sat quietly. Olivia knocked on the open door. Can I come in? Of course. She sat across from me. You look exhausted. My uncle apologized. Did it help? I don't know. What are you feeling? I looked out the window. Anger. Only anger? And sadness. She nodded. That's normal. I keep wondering if I should save them. She looked surprised. After everything? They're still my family. And what about you? What do you mean? Who's saving you? I couldn't answer. She smiled gently. You already are. A week later, Daniel rushed into my office. Ethan. What happened? We've been invited to the City Builders Expo. The biggest industry event. Yes. That's huge. 2 days later, we arrived at the exhibition hall. Large construction companies filled every corner. Our booth was small compared to the others. Daniel whispered, one day we'll have the biggest booth here. I believe you. As visitors walked past, some stopped to ask questions. Others ignored us completely. Then I heard a familiar voice. Well, look who's pretending to be successful. I turned around. Ryan. He wore an expensive suit and a confident smile. Hello, Ryan. He laughed. I didn't expect your company to survive this long. We're doing fine. He looked around our booth. This is adorable. Several people nearby laughed. You rented the smallest space in the building. It's enough. Ryan smirked. You could have stayed with the family. I wasn't invited. You weren't chosen. Daniel stepped forward. That's enough. Ryan ignored him. He looked back at me. Tell me something. What? Do you regret leaving? I smiled calmly. No. He frowned. You should. I'm exactly where I want to be. He laughed loudly. Working out of a warehouse. Building something honest. His smile faded. Before he could answer, a well-dressed man approached our booth. Excuse me. Yes? I'm Victor Lang. He handed me his business card. I've been listening. Ryan immediately smiled. Mr. Lang, good to see you. Victor barely looked at him. I came to speak with Ethan. Ryan's expression changed. Victor turned toward me. I've heard impressive things about your recent projects. Thank you. My company needs a reliable construction partner. Ryan interrupted. Carter Construction would be happy to. Victor raised his hand. I wasn't asking Carter Construction. The silence was almost painful. Ryan stepped back. Victor continued. Would you be available tomorrow morning? For what? To discuss a long-term contract. I tried to remain calm. I'd be honored. He smiled. Excellent. After he walked away, Ryan stared at me. You think you've won? I answered quietly. I don't need to beat you. What does that mean? I only need to keep improving. He shook his head and walked away without another word. The next morning, Daniel and I met Victor. After 2 hours of discussion, he smiled. Congratulations. I blinked. Congratulations. You've just secured the largest contract your company has ever received. Daniel nearly dropped his coffee. Are you serious? Victor laughed. I never joke about business. I signed the papers with shaking hands. As we walked outside, Daniel grabbed my shoulder. You did it. No. I looked at our company logo on the folder. We did it. That evening I stood alone inside our warehouse. The lights reflected off new equipment we had recently purchased. Olivia walked in carrying dinner. I guessed you'd still be working. I smiled. We got the contract. I know. How? Daniel called me before he called anyone else. I laughed. That sounds like him. She handed me a sandwich. You know what makes today special? The contract. She shook her head. No. What then? You didn't argue with Ryan. I thought about it. She was right. Months ago, I would have fought to prove my worth. Now I didn't need to. Success had spoken louder than I ever could. As I looked around the warehouse, I realized something important. The family company had once been my dream. Now it was only my past. My future was standing right in front of me, and for the first time, I wasn't chasing my father's approval. I was building a life that finally belonged to me. Nearly 2 years passed faster than I expected. The old warehouse that Daniel and I had cleaned with our own hands was no longer enough for our growing team. We had moved into a modern office, hired dozens of employees, and completed projects that once felt impossible. One Monday morning, Daniel walked into my office holding a newspaper. You made the front page. I looked up. What now? He placed it on my desk. Across the front page was my picture beside the headline. Local entrepreneur transforms small startup into city's fastest growing construction firm. I smiled. I still don't like seeing my face in newspapers. Daniel laughed. You'd better get used to it. A knock came from the door. Olivia stepped inside. Congratulations, boss. I'm not your boss. She smiled. You signed my paycheck. We built this together. She nodded. And that's exactly why it works. Before I could answer, my phone started ringing. I looked at the screen. The smile disappeared from my face. Daniel noticed immediately. Who is it? I took a deep breath. My father. The room became silent. It has been almost 2 years, Olivia whispered. I know. The phone kept ringing. Finally, I answered. Hello. Ethan. His voice sounded exactly the same. I want to meet. Why? Dinner tonight. I'm busy. This is important. So was the last family dinner. He stayed quiet. Please. After a long silence, I finally replied. I'll be there. That evening, I parked outside the same house I had walked away from 2 years earlier. Nothing had changed. The garden looked the same. The lights were the same. Only I was different. My mother opened the door. Ethan. She hugged me tightly. I've missed you. I've missed you too. She looked like she wanted to say more, but my father's voice interrupted. Come inside. The dining room felt strangely familiar. Ryan was already sitting at the table. He leaned back with a smirk. Look who came back. I came to listen. My father motioned toward an empty chair. Sit. I remained standing. I'll stand. He sighed. Fine. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Finally, he cleared his throat. Your company has done well. Thank you. I've been following your progress. I didn't know. I read every article. Ryan rolled his eyes. Can we get to the point? My father nodded. The company needs you. I stared at him. What? Carter Construction is facing challenges. Ryan crossed his arms. They're temporary. My father ignored him. I want you to return. I almost laughed. Return? Yes. As what? He looked toward Ryan. You'll help your brother. I blinked. Help him? Ryan will remain president. And I do the work. You understand operations better. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So after everything, we're family. I smiled sadly. Now we're family? My father frowned. Don't be disrespectful. I'm asking a question. Ryan leaned forward. You should be grateful. I looked at him. Grateful? Most people would accept immediately. I don't work for people who don't respect me. Ryan laughed. There it is. What? The ego. I shook my head. This isn't about pride. It looks like pride. No. I looked directly at my father. It's about trust. He stayed silent. I gave you 12 years. I know. I believed every promise. I know. I walked away with nothing. You built something else. Yes. Then everyone won. His words stunned me. Everyone? You have your company. And you kept yours. So what's the problem? I felt years of pain rising inside me. The problem is that you never apologized. The room became silent. I waited, I continued. I thought maybe one day you'd say you were sorry. My father looked away. I did what I believed was right. For who? Our family. Our family? I laughed quietly. You destroyed this family. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Please. I looked at her gently. I'm not angry with you. Then I faced my father again. You taught me something that night. What? That my value depended on your opinion. He frowned. I never said that. You didn't have to. Ryan stood suddenly. You're acting like a victim. I smiled. No. What? I'm acting like a man who finally knows his worth. Ryan pointed toward the door. If you're not coming back, leave. I wasn't planning to stay. My father spoke again. Think carefully. I already have. You'll regret refusing. I shook my head. I regretted staying. I reached into my pocket and placed a business card on the table. If you ever need a contractor, my office accepts appointments. Ryan's face turned red. You're unbelievable. No. I smiled calmly. I've simply stopped asking for permission to succeed. I turned toward my mother. I love you. She wiped away a tear. I love you too. Then I walked to the front door. Ethan. My father's voice stopped me. I looked back. For a brief moment, I thought he would finally apologize. Instead, he simply said, You've changed. I nodded. You're right. Then I opened the door. The cool night air felt lighter than it had 2 years earlier. As I walked toward my car, I realized something I had never understood before. I had spent most of my life trying to earn my father's approval. Tonight, I walked away without needing it. For the first time, I didn't feel like the son he rejected. I felt like the man I had become. And that was worth more than the company he had taken from me. It was a quiet Friday afternoon when my assistant knocked on my office door. "Ethan, someone is here to see you." "Who is it?" She hesitated. "Your mother." I stood up immediately. "Send her in." A few seconds later, my mother walked inside carrying an old wooden box. She looked nervous, and her hands trembled as she held it. "Mom." She smiled weakly. "Hello, Ethan." I pulled out a chair. "Please, sit down." She placed the box on my desk but didn't let go of it. "I've wanted to do this for a long time." "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "The truth." I frowned. "What truth?" She slowly opened the box. Inside were old letters, legal documents, photographs, and a worn leather notebook. I looked at them in confusion. "I don't understand." She picked up an envelope. "This belonged to your grandfather." "My grandfather?" She nodded. "He wrote these before he passed away." I carefully opened the envelope. The handwriting was unmistakably his. My hands began to shake as I read the first lines. "Ethan has the heart of a leader." I stopped reading and looked at my mother. "What is this?" Tears filled her eyes. "Keep reading." I turned the page. "If anything happens to me, I want Ethan to lead Carter Construction when the time is right. He has earned my trust through hard work, honesty, and sacrifice." I couldn't breathe. I looked up again. "Mom?" She lowered her head. "Your grandfather wanted you to inherit the company." I stared at her. "What?" "He believed in you more than anyone." "Then why?" My voice broke. "Why didn't it happen?" She closed her eyes. "After your grandfather died, your father changed everything." I felt my chest tighten. "Changed what?" "The succession documents." I stood up so quickly that my chair slid backward. "You're saying Dad ignored Grandpa's wishes?" She nodded slowly. "He believed Ryan needed the company more." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Needed it? He thought Ryan was too weak to succeed on his own. And me? He believed you would survive anywhere. I laughed bitterly. So I was punished for being strong? She didn't answer. The silence told me everything. I walked to the window. For years I had blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I had failed somehow. Now I finally knew the truth. None of it had been because of my work. It had been a choice. Behind me, my mother whispered, "I'm sorry." I turned around. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Your father." I stared at her. "He said the family would fall apart if I spoke." It already fell apart. Tears rolled down her face. "I know." I begged for answers. "I know. I thought you believed I deserved it." "I never believed that." "Then why stay silent?" She covered her face. "Because I was weak." I walked back to my desk. For the first time, I didn't see my mother as someone who betrayed me. I saw a woman who had spent years living in fear. She handed me another document. "This is the original letter from your grandfather's lawyer." I read it carefully. Everything matched what she had said. There was no doubt anymore. The truth had been hidden for years. My mother reached across the desk. "I know you could use these papers." "For what?" "You could challenge your father." I looked at the documents again. "You could take the company." "I probably could." "You deserve it." I remained quiet. She looked surprised. "Aren't you going to fight?" I smiled sadly. "I already did." "What do you mean?" "I built my own company." "But this proves you were right." "I don't need proof anymore." She frowned. "I don't understand." I closed the box gently. "If I use these papers, my life becomes about destroying my father." "And?" "I don't want that." "He lied to you." "I know." "He stole your future." I looked into her eyes. "No." She looked confused. "He stole the future he planned for me." I placed my hand on my chest. "But he never stole the future I built myself." For the first time that afternoon, she smiled. "Your grandfather would have been proud." I felt my throat tighten. I wish he could have seen this. He did. I looked at her. "What?" She pointed to the last letter. He wrote one more message. I opened it carefully. Ethan, if you are reading this, life probably became harder than I hoped. Never measure your worth by what someone gives you. Measure it by what you build with your own hands. One day, people will know your name because of your character, not your inheritance. I wiped away a tear. It felt as if my grandfather were speaking directly to me. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. My mother stood. I don't expect forgiveness. I walked around the desk and hugged her. I'm still healing. I know. But I'm tired of carrying hate. She cried quietly. So am I. As she left my office, I looked once more at the wooden box. Years earlier, I would have used those documents as weapons. Now they were simply reminders of how far I had come. I locked the box inside my cabinet, not because I feared the truth, but because I no longer needed it to define me. The greatest answer to every lie my father had told was waiting outside my office window. It wasn't revenge. It was the life I had built without him. Almost a year passed after my mother told me the truth. Our company had expanded into 2 new cities, and every month brought another opportunity. I was reviewing plans with Olivia when Daniel rushed into my office, holding a folder and wearing the same excited expression he always had when something unexpected happened. Ethan, you need to see this. What happened? He dropped the folder onto my desk. Carter construction is almost finished. I looked at him quietly. What do you mean? They've missed loan payments. I opened the folder. Several newspaper articles covered the same story. Investors had pulled out. Banks had frozen new loans. 2 major projects had been cancelled. Daniel pointed at one headline. Ryan borrowed millions without a backup plan. I closed the folder. I was afraid something like this would happen. Olivia looked at me. Are you okay? I don't know. Daniel pulled up a chair. There's more. I raised an eyebrow. What now? 3 investment groups want to sell the company. So? They want you to buy it. I leaned back. They're serious. Very. He slid another document across my desk. If you buy Carter Construction now, you'll own everything your father spent 30 years building. The room fell silent. Daniel smiled. Think about it. Olivia folded her arms. Or don't. Daniel looked at her. Why not? Because I know what this would really cost. He frowned. It would make us the biggest company in the region. She nodded. And every morning Ethan would walk into the same building that reminds him of the worst night of his life. Daniel looked at me. What do you think? I answered honestly. I don't know. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked onto my apartment balcony and stared at the city lights. I remembered every late night I had spent inside my father's company. Every promise. Every sacrifice. Every disappointment. My phone rang. It was my father. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. Hello. His voice sounded older than I remembered. Ethan. Yes. I heard you've been approached. I have. There was a long silence. I won't ask you for help. I didn't reply. I just wanted you to hear one thing from me. I'm listening. I failed. His words surprised me. I trusted Ryan with responsibilities he wasn't ready for. I closed my eyes. I warned you. I know. You never listened. I know. Another long silence followed. Finally, he said quietly. I'm sorry. The words I had waited years to hear finally arrived. Yet they didn't bring the satisfaction I had imagined. I simply replied. I hope you mean that. I do. The call ended. The next morning, Daniel was waiting outside my office. So? So what? Are we buying Carter Construction? Before I answered, Olivia walked in carrying coffee. I think I already know his answer. Daniel laughed. Let's hear it. I looked at both of them. No. Daniel blinked. No? We're not buying it. But Ethan. I raised my hand. I've thought about it all night. It would double our business. I know. It would make headlines. I know. So why refuse? I smiled. Because I don't want my future built on my family's ruins. Daniel looked down. I didn't think about it that way. I did. Olivia smiled proudly. What are you going to do instead? I spread several maps across the table. We're opening offices in 3 more cities. Daniel looked at the maps. You planned all this already? I've been planning it for months. He laughed. So while I was planning revenge, I was planning growth. Olivia grinned. That's why you're the boss. A week later, another investor called. Mr. Carter, this is your last chance to purchase Carter Construction. I appreciate the offer. So you'll accept? No. May I ask why? I looked through my office window at the employees working together. I already have everything I need. When the call ended, I felt lighter than I had in years. Months passed. News spread that Carter Construction officially declared bankruptcy. Workers found new jobs. Buildings were sold. The company that had once seemed impossible to defeat disappeared quietly. Daniel walked into my office holding the final newspaper. It's over. I looked at the headline. Then I folded the paper and placed it inside a drawer without reading the article. Aren't you curious? No. Why? Because the story I'm interested in isn't theirs anymore. He smiled. It's ours. I nodded. Exactly. That evening, Olivia and I stood outside our newest office as employees celebrated inside. She looked at me. Do you regret anything? I thought carefully before answering. I regret giving so many years to people who couldn't see my worth. And now? I reached for her hand. Now I know my worth was never theirs to decide. She smiled. I've been waiting for you to say that. I looked at the lights shining through our office windows. Once, I believed winning meant taking back what my father had denied me. Now I understood the truth. Real victory wasn't watching my family's company fall. Real victory was standing inside a future I had created with my own hands, surrounded by people who believed in me because I had earned their trust. I never needed revenge. Karma had done its work without my help. And for the first time in my life, I was completely at peace. 5 years passed before I received the invitation. I opened the envelope and smiled. Entrepreneur of the Year. Daniel looked over my shoulder. You finally got it. We got it. He laughed. You still say that every time. Because it's true. Olivia walked into my office. What are you two celebrating? Daniel handed her the invitation. She read it and hugged me. I knew this day would come. I wasn't so sure. You never stopped working. I never stopped learning. She smiled. And you never stopped believing. The night of the ceremony arrived. The ballroom was filled with business leaders, reporters, and cameras. Daniel adjusted his tie. I'm more nervous than you. You aren't giving the speech. I know, but I helped build the company. I laughed. You definitely earned your seat. Olivia straightened my jacket. Ready? As ready as I'll ever be. We walked inside together. As I looked around the room, my eyes stopped on a familiar face. My father. He was sitting alone at the back of the hall. His hair had turned almost completely gray. His shoulders looked smaller than I remembered. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he gave me a small nod. I returned it. Daniel quietly asked, Are you okay? I will be. The ceremony began. Several awards were announced before the host finally smiled at the audience. And now, our Entrepreneur of the Year. My heart pounded. The award goes to Ethan Carter. The room filled with applause. Daniel hugged me first. I told you. Olivia smiled with tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you. I walked onto the stage and accepted the award. The microphone stood in front of me. I took a slow breath. When I started my company, I had very little. The room became silent. I didn't have money. A few people smiled. I didn't have powerful connections. I looked toward Daniel. But I had people who believed in me. Daniel lowered his head with a smile. I want to thank my business partner, Daniel Brooks. The audience applauded. You never stopped believing in me, even when I doubted myself. He wiped his eyes. I also want to thank Olivia Hayes. She smiled. You reminded me that success means nothing if I lose myself while chasing it. More applause followed. And finally, I want to thank every employee who chose to build this dream with us. I held up the award. This belongs to all of you. The audience stood and applauded. As I stepped off the stage, several reporters surrounded me. Mr. Carter, how does it feel? It feels humbling. Did hardship make you stronger? I smiled. Hardship taught me who truly stood beside me. Another reporter asked, Do you have any regrets? I thought for a moment. I regret wasting years trying to earn love that should never have needed to be earned. After the interviews ended, I walked into the quiet hallway. I heard footsteps behind me. Ethan. I turned around. My father stood a few feet away. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he sighed. Congratulations. Thank you. You deserve that award. I appreciate that. He looked down at the floor. Ryan left the country. I nodded. I heard. He owed too much money. I'm sorry it ended that way. So am I. His voice trembled. I kept waiting. For what? For you to fail. I stared at him. I told myself that if you failed, it would prove I made the right decision. He laughed bitterly. But every year you became stronger. I stayed quiet. The truth became impossible to ignore. He finally looked into my eyes. I wasn't protecting Ryan. He paused. I was protecting my own pride. I felt years of anger fading away. I couldn't admit I had chosen the wrong son. His words hurt. Not because they were cruel. Because they were honest. I'm sorry, Ethan. I know. No. He shook his head. You don't. He wiped his eyes. I lost my company. I lost Ryan. And I almost lost you forever. I took a slow breath. You did lose me. He closed his eyes. I know. For a long moment, we simply stood there. Finally, I spoke. I spent years wanting to hear those words. And now? I smiled gently. Now I don't need them. He nodded slowly. That's what I was afraid of. I reached out and shook his hand. I hope you find peace. He looked surprised. You aren't angry? I was. And today? Today I have too much to be grateful for. He smiled sadly. I'm proud of the man you became. Years ago, those words would have meant everything to me. Now they simply reminded me of how far I had traveled. As I walked back into the ballroom, Olivia took my hand. Everything okay? I looked around at the people celebrating beside me. Then I smiled. Better than okay. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living as the son my father failed to understand. I was finally living as the man I had chosen to become. 3 years after the award ceremony, I stood at the front of a beautiful garden, waiting for the happiest moment of my life. Daniel adjusted his tie and smiled. You look more nervous today than you did on the award stage. I laughed. Don't remind me. He patted my shoulder. You'll be fine. The music began. I looked toward the entrance. Olivia appeared, wearing a simple white dress and the same warm smile that had carried me through my darkest years. She reached me, took my hands, and whispered, Ready? I've been ready since the day you walked into that old warehouse. She laughed softly. I was hoping you'd say something like that. Minutes later, we became husband and wife. As everyone celebrated, I quietly thanked life for giving me a future I never imagined when I walked away from my father's house. Years continued to pass. Our company expanded across the country. But success was never measured by the number of buildings we completed. One afternoon, Olivia entered my office carrying a folder. I've finished the scholarship proposal. I smiled. Let's see. She handed it to me. We'll provide education and training for young people who can't afford college. I looked at her. Just like we talked about. She nodded. They deserve opportunities, not empty promises. I signed the papers. Let's do it. Within months, dozens of young workers joined our program. One of them shook my hand after graduation. Mr. Carter. Yes? I wouldn't be here without you. I smiled. I only opened the door. You walked through it. He smiled proudly. Watching those students succeed brought me more happiness than any business award ever could. One quiet afternoon, my assistant knocked gently. Ethan. Come in. Someone is here. Who? She hesitated. Your father. I looked toward the window. After all these years, I wasn't surprised. Please send him in. A few moments later, he entered my office. He looked older than ever. His steps were slower. His confidence had disappeared. He looked around the office before speaking. You built all this? Yes. You were right. I didn't answer. He walked toward the large window overlooking the city. I spent years believing success meant control. He smiled sadly. I was wrong. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, He turned toward me. I didn't come to ask for anything. I know. I came because there is something I should have said a long time ago. I remained silent. He took a deep breath. Ethan? I'm sorry. His voice shook. I failed you as a father. I listened quietly. I compared my sons instead of loving them equally. He lowered his head. I gave your future away because I believed you were strong enough to survive. I answered softly. I did survive. I know. And you survived without me. I nodded. Yes. Tears filled his eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. I stood and walked closer. I forgave you a long time ago. He looked surprised. But forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. I understand. I'll never forget those years. You shouldn't. They made me who I am. He smiled through his tears. I've always wanted to tell you one last thing. What is it? I'm proud of you. I looked into his tired eyes. Years ago, those words would have healed every wound inside me. Now they simply felt peaceful. Thank you. He nodded. I can finally say them honestly. Before leaving, he reached into his coat pocket and placed an old photograph on my desk. It showed my grandfather standing beside me when I was 16, both of us covered in dust at my first construction site. I found this while cleaning the house. I picked it up carefully. I thought you should have it. I'll treasure it. He smiled one final time. Goodbye, son. Goodbye, Dad. I watched him walk away without trying to stop him. For the first time, there was no anger between us. Only acceptance. That evening, Olivia stepped into my office. How did it go? He apologized. And? I believed him. She wrapped her arms around me. I'm happy for you. So am I. Later that night, we visited one of our scholarship centers. Students were laughing while working on their projects. Daniel joined us with a smile. You know something? What? This place might be our greatest achievement. I looked around the room. Young people who had once believed their dreams were impossible were now building futures with their own hands. I smiled. I think you're right. As everyone left for the evening, I stood alone in the workshop. I looked at the framed photograph of my grandfather that now hung on the wall. I finally understand, I whispered. 4 years, I believed my greatest victory would be proving my father wrong. I thought success would taste sweeter if he regretted his decision. But I had been chasing the wrong finish line. My greatest revenge was never revenge at all. It was choosing kindness when bitterness was easier. It was building opportunities instead of destroying lives. It was creating a company where people were respected instead of compared. It was loving the family I created instead of remaining trapped by the family that hurt me. I looked through the glass walls at employees, students, and friends talking together. None of this had been handed to me. Every brick, every contract, every lesson, every victory had been earned. My father had once believed my future depended on the company he refused to give me. He couldn't have been more wrong. My future began the moment I walked away. I no longer measured my life by what I had lost. I measured it by everything I had built. I smiled as I switched off the office lights. The frightened young man who had driven away from his childhood home with nothing but broken trust was gone. In his place stood a husband, a leader, a mentor, and a man who finally understood his own worth. No one could ever take that away. I hadn't inherited a legacy. I had built my own.